Part 1, The Call for Soldiers. The galaxy was burning. The Korath Dominion moved like a storm through the stars, crushing every world that dared resist. Their fleets blotted out the skies. Their soldiers were towering beasts clad in heavy armor, and their rule was built on chains and fire. World after world fell, and with each defeat the Allied Council of Worlds grew weaker. In the grand chambers of the Council, leaders of dozens of species gathered. Fear was heavy in the air. Some worlds had already surrendered. Others whispered of retreating to hidden systems and abandoning the war. But the Council knew one truth. If the Dominion was not stopped, there would be no safe place left in the galaxy. So they sent out the plea. A signal was broadcast across the stars, reaching every known world and even the unaligned colonies. The message was simple, desperate, and filled with urgency. We ask for soldiers. We ask for warriors who will stand against the Dominion. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, if you can fight, we need you. Come and defend freedom before it is extinguished forever. The message traveled on waves of light and sound, echoing through the void. It reached proud warrior cultures who were already weary of battle. It reached peaceful worlds who had no fighters left to give. It reached colonies on the edge of space where people listened with silent dread. And finally, it reached a small blue planet that most of the galaxy had never even noticed. That world was Earth. To the Allied Council, Earth was insignificant. A young species, still learning the ways of the stars. A planet with no great fleets, no history of galactic empires, no reputation in war. When the Council reviewed the call logs and saw Earth's response, they hardly paid attention. They assumed at best they would get a few hundred soldiers, enough to fill the gaps in the ranks, nothing more. But Earth was not like other worlds. Earth was a death world. Its forests and oceans teemed with predators. Its skies and climates were harsh and violent, and its history was written in wars, disasters, and survival. To live on Earth was to fight, against the elements, against hunger, against disease, and often against each other. And from that endless struggle, humanity was forged. When Earth answered the call, it did not send polished armies in shining armor. It did not send soldiers who marched in perfect lines, trained only to obey. Earth sent something far more dangerous. It sent men and women who had grown up in a world where weakness meant death. It sent survivors, fighters, predators. It sent Deathworlders. At first, no one in the Council understood what that meant. To them, the word Deathworld was only a label on old star maps. Dangerous, yes, but what could it matter? A soldier was a soldier, and numbers were what the galaxy needed. But in the shadows of the Council chambers, some of the elder races stirred uneasily. The Arathi scholars remembered stories passed down from explorers, tales of Earth's brutal storms and savage wildlife. The Kelnar historians recalled whispers of human wars that consumed entire continents before they even left their atmosphere. Still, the Council was desperate. They would take any soldiers no matter how rough or strange, so they approved Earth's offer and waited. Weeks later, in orbit above the central Council world, a single transport ship dropped from hyperspace. It was smaller than the others, patched and scarred, as if it had already seen too many battles. The Council gathered in the docking bay, expecting to see disciplined troops step out in neat formations. Instead, they saw the Deathworlders. They walked with heavy steps, their eyes sharp and restless, scanning every corner of the room. Their uniforms were mismatched. Their weapons carried the marks of long use, and their faces bore scars that spoke of fire and blood. These were not clean, orderly soldiers. These were survivors who had fought and killed long before the Council had ever heard their name. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the Council began to wonder. Had they asked for soldiers, or had they summoned something far more dangerous? And somewhere deep inside, a quiet truth settled over them. If anything in the galaxy could stand against the Dominion, it would not be soldiers, it would be Deathworlders. Part 2, First Arrival. The great chamber of the Allied Council was filled with tense silence. Leaders of many worlds stood shoulder to shoulder, their eyes fixed on the enormous view screen showing the docking bay. They had all heard the call had been answered by Earth, but no one here truly knew what to expect. To most of them, Earth was a minor, unimportant planet, a place hardly worth mentioning in galactic records. The docking bay doors groaned open, and a small human transport ship descended with a heavy rumble. It was not a polished vessel like those of the other armies. The metal hull was scarred, dented, and blackened by burns. It looked more like a survivor than a warship. The sight alone made some of the counselors exchange nervous glances. One of the Volari delegates whispered, "That ship looks like it has been through a dozen battles already. And this is what they send us?" The bay hissed with escaping steam as the ramp lowered. For a moment there was only the sound of boots striking metal. Then the humans appeared. They did not march in neat, perfect lines. They walked in uneven groups, their steps heavy and deliberate. Their uniforms were not matching colors, but a patchwork of different designs. Some wore armored plates scratched from past wars. Others had only fabric fatigues that looked worn and faded. Yet despite the mismatched gear, there was something about their presence, something that made every alien in the chamber hold their breath. The humans looked dangerous. Their faces carried scars, burns, and the tired lines of people who had seen too much. Their eyes were sharp, restless, always scanning the room as if they expected an attack even here in the heart of safety. Some of them carried weapons slung across their backs, old rifles and blades with marks of use. They looked less like soldiers from an army and more like survivors from a world that never forgave weakness. A soft murmur rippled across the chamber. The counselors were confused. Where was the discipline? Where were the polished ranks and shining armor they had hoped for? A Zerthi general, tall and scaled, hissed in disdain. "These are not the trained soldiers we asked for. They look like animals, monsters in human shape." The words echoed across the chamber, and several others nodded in uneasy agreement. Captain Reyes, the human leader, stepped forward. His dark hair was streaked with gray, though he was not yet old, and his face bore a scar that ran from his temple down to his cheek. He looked at the gathered counselors with eyes that seemed both tired and unyielding. "Monsters?" he repeated softly, almost amused. His lips curved into a grim smile. "Maybe, but monsters are exactly what you need if you want to stop the Dominion." The counselors shifted uncomfortably. The boldness in his tone unsettled them. Most armies begged for approval, pleaded for respect. But this man, this human, spoke as if he had nothing to prove, because he already knew what his people were. One of the council members, an elderly Arathi scholar, raised a trembling voice. "Do your people even understand what they are walking into? The Dominion is not a small enemy. They are an empire of conquerors, larger and stronger than anything we have faced. They crush armies with ease." Reyes's gaze hardened. "We understand. On our world, every day is a fight. Against the land, the storms, the beasts. And against each other, we have fought empires before, long before we reached the stars. We know what it means to be outnumbered. We know what it means to stand on the edge of extinction. And still, we survive." His voice grew quieter, but the weight of his words filled the chamber. "You wanted soldiers. You called for warriors. What you got are survivors. That is who we are. That is what Earth makes." The silence afterward was heavy. The counselors looked at one another, some with fear, some with doubt, and some with a flicker of hope. They had seen many armies before, but none had ever spoken with such raw certainty. The Volari delegate muttered, almost to himself, "Survivors. Or predators." Reyes didn't answer. He didn't need to. His people stood behind him silent, but their presence was louder than any words. They were not clean, polished soldiers. They were not raised to fight in ceremonial wars. They were children of a death world, and everything about them showed it. The counselors had no choice. The Dominion was advancing, their fleets drawing ever closer. They needed every fighter, no matter how strange or terrifying. And so, with uneasy hearts, they accepted the humans into their ranks. But as the humans left the chamber, whispers spread like wildfire among the delegates. Some said these newcomers might save them. Others feared they had unleashed something they could never control. The truth would soon be revealed on the battlefield. For now, one thing was clear. The Galax. I had asked for soldiers. What they received instead were Deathworlders. Part 4. The Fear of Allies. The news of Calyrus spread quickly across the galaxy. For the first time in years, the Dominion had been forced to retreat. Entire systems celebrated and hope bloomed where there had only been despair. But in the council chambers, celebration soon gave way to unease. The humans had won, yes, but the way they fought disturbed many. Reports from soldiers who had witnessed the battle painted a frightening picture. The humans did not march in ordered ranks. They did not fight with restraint or honor. They fought like predators, using ambushes, traps, and brutality that shocked even seasoned veterans. They fought like demons, one Valari officer said in a trembling voice. I saw a human charge a Dominion giant with nothing but a blade. He stabbed until his hands were covered in blood. Even when wounded, they did not stop. It was as if pain itself could not touch them. The words rippled through the council chamber. Some whispered in admiration. Others whispered in fear. At a meeting of the Allied generals, the debate grew heated. A Xerthi commander slammed his clawed hand on the table. These creatures are dangerous. They are not disciplined soldiers. They are killers who obey nothing but their own instincts. Today they fight the Dominion. Tomorrow they may turn on us. An Arathi scholar, calmer but no less cautious, added, they come from a death world. Their instincts are not like ours. They are shaped by a place that demands violence for survival. Can such beings ever truly be trusted? Not everyone agreed. A Kelnar admiral rose from his seat, his thin tendrils quivering. You call them dangerous. Yes, they are. But so is the Dominion. We begged for saviors and they came. Are we now afraid because they do what we could not? Without them, Kaliris would already be ashes. The chamber fell silent. No one could deny the truth. Still, the unease remained like a shadow clinging to every thought. Meanwhile, the humans noticed the stairs. Whenever they walked through the council halls, alien eyes followed them. Some looked with awe, others with fear. Whispers followed them like ghosts. Words like monster, beast, Deathworlder. Private Khan, a young soldier barely past 20, muttered to Captain Reyes as they passed another group of staring aliens. They hate us, sir. We fight their battles, bleed for them, and still they look at us like we're a threat. Reyes's jaw tightened. His voice was steady but weary. They don't understand us, son. To them, war is something rare. To us, it's survival. Don't expect them to love us for what we are. Expect them to need us. Khan lowered his head but said no more. Later that night, Reyes stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city lights of the council world. A counselor approached quietly. It was Elder Serath, one of the oldest members of the Arathi. His silver eyes reflected both wisdom and fear. Captain, Serath said softly, do you know what they are calling your people? Reyes chuckled without humor. Monsters, I imagine. The elder hesitated, then nodded. Yes, monsters. They fear you, Reyes. They fear what humanity is capable of. They whisper that one day when the Dominion is gone, your people may turn those same teeth against the rest of us. Reyes turned to face him fully, his scar catching the glow of the city lights. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried the weight of truth. We didn't come here for conquest. We came because you called for help. On Earth, we don't have the luxury of fighting wars for honor or politics. We fight because if we don't, we die. That's the difference between us and you. You fight because you must resist the Dominion. We fight because it's the only way we've ever lived. Serath studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Perhaps that is what terrifies us most. The fear of the humans grew with every whisper, but so did the respect. Word of their victories spread. They held the line where others broke. They fought with a savagery the Dominion had not expected. Every world freed by their hands added weight to the truth. Humanity was turning the tide of the war. Yet the question remained in every heart. Were these allies, or had the galaxy invited something far more dangerous into its midst? The Dominion feared them. The Council feared them, and perhaps in their own way even the humans feared themselves. But one truth was clear. The galaxy had asked for soldiers. What it received were predators who wore the face of humanity. Part 5. The Final Stand. The war dragged on, each battle bloodier than the last. The Dominion had not fallen. Though the humans had brought victories, the enemy's strength was vast. Entire fleets still darkened the skies, and their armies were endless. The Allied Council feared the end was near, and then came the news that froze every world in terror. The Dominion was gathering its greatest fleet. An armada larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen was moving toward the heart of Allied space. If it broke through, everything would fall. In the War Council, commanders argued desperately. Some said to retreat, others to scatter and survive in hiding. But Captain Reyes stood at the center of the room, silent, his eyes fixed on the hologram of the Dominion armada. When the voices quieted, he finally spoke. We can't run. If we do, they will hunt us down, system by system. There's only one choice left. Fight. Fight here. Fight now. And make sure this battle is the one the Dominion never forgets. His voice carried no fear, only certainty. The counselors looked at him uneasy, yet unable to deny the truth. The humans would lead the final stand. Preparations began. The humans worked day and night, laying traps across the system. They mined asteroid belts, turned abandoned stations into hidden gun platforms, and laid ambushes in the dark void. Their plans were ruthless, clever, and dangerous, just like them. Alien engineers who watched them whispered in awe. "They think like predators," one murmured. "Every star, every rock, every shadow, they use it all as a weapon." At last the day came. The Dominion fleet entered the system, a black tide of ships stretching across the stars. Their banners of conquest glowed red against the darkness. The defenders, though smaller in number, stood ready. The battle began. The Dominion swept forward, confident in their power. Their warships opened fire, tearing through the first line of defenses. Allied fleets struggled to hold. Then the humans struck. Explosions erupted from hidden mines, ripping apart enemy cruisers. Asteroids shifted, shoved by engines and gravity traps, smashing into the Dominion's formations. From the shadows, human strike craft darted like hunting wolves, attacking where the enemy was weakest. But the true terror came when the humans boarded. They hurled themselves into the heart of the Dominion ships, breaching hulls with explosives and storming the corridors. Giants met them with roars, swinging massive blades, but the humans fought like demons. They used fire, blades, and bare hands when nothing else remained. Blood filled the halls of steel. A Korath commander, towering over his human opponent, laughed as he brought down his blade. The human blocked it with a broken rifle, shoved forward, and drove a knife into the giant's throat. Even in death, the Dominion soldier's eyes widened in disbelief. The battle raged for hours. The void burned with fire and shattered metal. The humans refused to retreat. Where others saw hopelessness, they found fury. They fought on the ground, in the skies, and even inside enemy warships. For every human that fell, 3 Korath died. The defenders of the galaxy watched with awe. They had seen courage before, but never like this. The humans seemed unbreakable, unstoppable, as if the void itself could not claim them. At last, the Dominion faltered. Their ships began to retreat, their lines broken by the relentless assault. The tide of conquest that had drowned worlds was finally pushed back. When silence returned to the stars, wreckage drifted everywhere. The battlefield was a graveyard of ships. The survivors stood bloodied, weary, but victorious. The humans had done the impossible. They had stopped the Dominion armada. On the Council world, news spread like wildfire. Crowds wept with joy. Leaders embraced one another in disbelief. The galaxy had been saved. But in the shadows of every celebration, the same thought lingered. The humans had fought like monsters, more savage than anyone could imagine. They had bled for the galaxy, yes. But what would happen when the monsters no longer had an enemy to fight? The galaxy had wanted soldiers. What it had received were Deathworlders. And on this day, those Deathworlders had saved them all. Part 6. The Monsters Who Saved the Stars. The war reached its breaking point. The Dominion, driven by fury and desperation, launched one last offensive. Every fleet they possessed, every weapon they had built, surged toward the heart of the Alliance. Their goal was simple: crush the resistance, enslave the remaining worlds, and end the dream of freedom forever. The galaxy trembled. The Council feared this would be the final night of their existence. Planets prepared for evacuation. Families said goodbye, not knowing if they would see another dawn. The Dominion's shadow stretched across the stars. But where others saw doom, the humans saw a challenge. Captain Reyes and his soldiers stood ready aboard the Allied flagship. Their armor bore scars from countless battles, but their eyes burned with the same fire. They had fought in jungles, deserts, frozen wastelands, and void stations. They had lost brothers and sisters, but their spirit had only hardened. "Listen up," Reyes said to his troops. His voice carried through the ship's comms, strong and unshakable. "The Dominion thinks this is their last strike. They think we'll break. They think we'll surrender. They're wrong. Tonight we remind them why Deathworlders are feared. Tonight we show them what humanity does when pushed against the wall." A cheer rose, fierce and wild, not like disciplined soldiers, but like predators ready to hunt. The battle began. Stars burned with fire as fleets clashed. The Dominion came like a storm, endless waves of ships tearing through defenses. Allied vessels fell one by one, their lines straining, breaking. Then humanity struck. The humans did not fight with numbers. They fought with fury. Their ships darted into impossible gaps. Their soldiers boarded Dominion cruisers with knives and rifles, turning corridors into rivers of blood. Where the enemy expected retreat, the humans advanced. Where the enemy expected fear, the humans laughed. One report spread like wildfire. A human soldier, body burning from plasma fire, still dragged himself into the Dominion's command bridge and detonated his charges with a smile. Another told of a squad that fought for 30 hours without food or sleep, holding a station long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The Dominion, for all their might, had never known such madness. On the Council world, leaders watched the battle feeds in silence. At first there was horror, then disbelief, then awe. "They should not be able to win," whispered an Arathi scholar, tears shining in his silver eyes. By every calculation, this battle was already lost. "And yet," Elder Serath murmured, "the humans fight as if loss does not exist." The chamber filled with the sounds of human war cries echoing through the comms. Predators roaring, refusing to die. For the first time, the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity was not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for everyone who could not. At the height of the battle, Reyes led the final strike. His ship pierced through the Dominion's command fleet, guns blazing. He stood at the front of the boarding party, blade in one hand, rifle in the other. The Dominion commander, a towering beast armored in black steel, faced him with a snarl. "You are monsters," the alien spat. Reyes bared his teeth in something between a grin and a snarl. "You're damn right we are." Their clash shook the command deck. Blow for blow, strike for strike, until Reyes drove his blade deep and ended it. The Dominion fleet faltered. Their command was broken, and with that the tide turned. Hours later, silence filled the stars. The Dominion fleet was shattered. The survivors scattered into the void, broken, defeated. The galaxy was free. The cost had been heavy. Human ships burned among the wreckage, their crews gone. Fields of stars glittered like gravestones for the fallen, but victory was theirs. When Reyes returned to the council chambers, the galaxy's leaders rose to their feet. Some bowed their heads. Others simply stared. They had asked for soldiers. What they had received were monsters who bled, fought, and died so that others might live. Reyes stood tall, scars on his face, weariness in his eyes. He did not speak of conquest or glory. He simply said, "Earth answered your call. Remember this day, not for us but for the worlds that still shine because of it. We are Deathworlders. We are monsters, but tonight, we were your shield." The chamber erupted not in fear but in thunderous applause. For the first time, the galaxy did not whisper "monster" as an insult. They whispered it with reverence, and so the legend was born. When the stars called for soldiers, Earth sent Deathworlders. And the monsters of humanity saved them all. Part 3. The Battlefield Test. The war did not wait. The Dominion struck again before the Council could even finish their debates about Earth's strange soldiers. A border world called Kaliris was under siege. Its skies burned as Korath warships rained fire, and its defenders cried out for help. The Allied Council rushed reinforcements, and with them came the humans. The Council generals were nervous. They wanted to place the humans at the rear, to let them watch rather than fight, but Captain Reyes refused. Standing tall in the War Council, he placed a scarred hand on the map projection and said firmly, "Put us where the line is breaking. That is where we belong." Some aliens scoffed. Others warned he was sending his people to death. Reyes only gave them a cold smile. "Death doesn't frighten us. Losing does." And so the humans were sent to the front. The Dominion forces were monsters of war. The Korath soldiers were massive, twice the height of a human, their bodies wrapped in thick armor and scaled skin. Their weapons blasted holes through bunkers. For hours, the defenders of Kaliris tried to hold the line. They fought bravely, but the Korath advanced step by step like an unstoppable wall. The defenders began to fall back. That was when the humans arrived. They came rushing through the smoke and dust, moving fast and low, spreading out like a pack of hunters. Their uniforms were dirty, their weapons battered, but the fire in their eyes was something no alien soldier had ever seen. They did not advance in perfect lines or wait for orders to echo through the ranks. They fought like they were born for chaos. At first, the Korath laughed. These small, fragile creatures, this was what the Council had sent to stop them. The giants charged, swinging their heavy blades and firing their cannons. But then the laughter died. The humans did not break. They darted aside from the Korath's massive swings, slipping under the giant's guard. A single human leapt onto a soldier's back, slamming a knife into the gap of his armor again and again until the monster collapsed. Others planted explosives beneath the ground, waiting until entire squads of Korath stepped onto them before triggering blasts that shook the battlefield. And when their weapons broke, the humans kept fighting. They picked up rocks, metal shards, even the fallen weapons of their enemies. They fought with fists and teeth if they had to. Every move was brutal, efficient, and merciless. The defenders of Kaliris watched in stunned silence. Where their armies had struggled to hold a line, the humans surged forward like a storm. They did not fight like soldiers. They fought like predators unleashed. Hours later, the battlefield was filled with smoke and broken machines. The Dominion, for the first time, faltered. Their soldiers roared in frustration as they were pushed back by creatures half their size but twice their ferocity. The humans fought until their bodies bled, and even then they refused to stop. At last, the Korath retreated, pulling their forces back into orbit. The defenders stood in disbelief. They had seen entire divisions crumble before the Dominion, yet these Deathworlders had driven them away. On the field, a young alien medic stumbled toward one of the humans, a woman with blood across her face. How did you not break?" he asked, his voice trembling. "We were ready to surrender, but you fought like nothing could stop you." The woman wiped the blood from her brow and gave him a tired, crooked smile. "On Earth, if you stop fighting, you don't get back up. You learn to fight until the other side quits. That's the only rule we know." Back in the council chamber, reports of the victory spread. The delegates were shocked. Never before had the Dominion been forced to retreat so suddenly. But with the shock came unease. "They fight without fear," one counselor whispered. "Even without mercy." Another replied, "They are not like us. They are too dangerous even for allies." But beneath their fear, a spark of hope flickered. For the first time, the Dominion had been stopped. And the reason was clear. It was not because of strategy or fleets or numbers. It was because the galaxy had asked for soldiers. And instead, it had been given Deathworlders. The Council did not yet understand what that truly meant. But the Korath did. And deep within their war chambers, the conquerors of the galaxy whispered the name of a new enemy: humanity.